Welcome to Food Travelers. In this episode, we are back in Las Vegas and we are hitting up the Luxor buffet for their brunch buffet. And if you are new to the channel, welcome. And if you're a returning watcher, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome everybody. It's been a while since we've been to Luxor buffet, and in this video, we're sharing our experience going to the weekday brunch. So for weekday brunch, it's Wednesdays and Thursdays at 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And at the time of recording, it was $28.99 a person for adults. And for children, it was 5 to 11 years of age at $16.99.
Malika, for this revisit, it was kind of what I was thinking was I was fighting against myself because in the last time we came, the very first time we came and filmed here, we didn't have the greatest of time at the buffet. There were a lot of issues, and one of the things that we did do was able to speak with the general manager, and they were actually trying to get us feedback on a lot of things for how they can improve and everything else. So this was maybe a year or so ago. And so we were, at least in my mind, I was excited to come try to see if there was any changes, but after seeing other YouTubers and their visits, it didn't seem like much changed. But of course, I wanted to go see for ourselves what was the difference, and I must say I was still pretty disappointed.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, Simon. I was actually pretty excited to see if they actually implemented anything that we had suggested to the manager there when we last came visit Luxor buffet. Unfortunately, I did not see any changes. Everything looked exactly the same as where it left off, like in terms of where everything was placed, where all the items were, including when we suggested that even the dessert section was placed and mixed in with everything else. That pretty much seems like the case. In terms of the type of breakfast dishes they had, it's quite disappointing because all you have are mostly egg dishes.
Yeah, agreed. It's something we mentioned in our first visit, and if you want to see that visit, we'll put the link in the description box below. But yeah, pretty much they have, one of the things that I really noticed this time around was they had at least 4 different egg, bacon, and sausage stations. And those are great. There's nothing wrong with having eggs, bacon, and sausage, especially for a brunch. Those are items that a lot of people really do like, but having 4 stations, I think, is what kind of trips them up a bit, because you kind of never really know which section. So there seems like there's one of the sections where the eggs and the bacon and the sausage are much older, like it's been sitting there around because not as many people will walk over to that section first to go grab the food, and so then it ends up sitting, whereas another section, maybe more people have visited that one, and so they'll grab that. But it creates a lot of inconsistencies, and of course I think there's I guess you can say oversupply of it, because there's just so much of it around at different places. And so as people are walking around, all of a sudden, I go to the first one, I grab the eggs, I grab bacon, I grab sausage, and then I walk again, I see it again, and of course I don't want it, so I leave it. And it just creates this thing where you kind of have this old food that just kind of sits around. And so it would be a lot better if they actually just changed those stations to something else. And so, the cooks and everybody there working can actually just watch and see as the supply goes down, they can fill it back up, rather than just having the same stuff over and over and just getting old and dried out and everything bad that you think about a buffet that happens.
Yeah, I think that's a good point you made there, Simon. So another stations that they had here, which is the same as last time, was that omelet station, and that omelet station was the hottest item that they had here. I remember last time when I came here, I really wanted an omelet, and I waited a really long time for that as well. This visit, I did not get an omelet this time. I just thought the line was just too crazy. With all these different egg stations that Simon mentioned, you could actually maybe even get rid of one of them and make a second omelet station or something else, maybe even like a waffle station, then at least that way you can change up the line there. I am not sure if you noticed in that carving station, it's pretty empty, and there's a reason why it's empty. The meats that you see there are pretty dry, from what I noticed, and especially from when Simon cut into his piece, it just didn't look really good.
Yeah, the issues are definitely persistent over here at the Luxor, and it's just kind of odd because it is run or at least owned through MGM, and so they have some of the really great buffets at MGM, especially with Bacchanal, and so it's just to see this kind of two-sided thing where you have this really great buffet that they run, and then this other side where it seems like they're just so I really don't know what it is, why they don't really try to improve this one, and especially with the size of this place. It's been around for a long time, and of course throughout the video you've seen various interior shots that we had from inside the buffet, and as you also notice, it's mostly empty, and there's a reason for it. It's because the buffet is just so not great that nobody really wants to come anymore. And it's just a sad thing because especially with the decorations they have with the Egyptian theme, it's a really beautiful space, but just they don't provide the food. And actually here in the video you'll see I'm actually grabbing yogurt, and that was actually my favorite thing to eat. There was the yogurt parfait, which I made for myself, and if that's the best thing you have at the buffet, then there's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I did not try this yogurt parfait, but one of my favorite things with this buffet is actually their donut section. I think their donut section is pretty good, and they have like multiple different versions of their donuts, and they're small enough, they're bite-sized and tiny, so you can try the different flavors that they offer. I think that is a really good pro for this buffet. But I mean, like Simon say, if your pro is not even your main entree stuff and it's donuts and yogurt, there is issues there for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I did like the donuts as well. The one thing I'm actually kind of curious about those donuts is whether they actually have a vendor who brings it in for them, or do they make it there. So if they are actually getting it from a vendor, then it's, I guess, even more sad that the better foods, at least in our opinion, come from somebody else rather than something that they actually put together.
Yeah, so, and one thing I did also want to mention is those bacons that they have, they're not crispy in the sense that the type of crispiness that you want, where it easily breaks apart when you chew on it. This is like the type of crispy where it's so overcooked and burnt, where you're like trying to chew into it, but you can't eat it.
I suppose if you looked around, since there's 4 stations, maybe even more, that I missed that had bacon, you can find different cooked versions of the bacon. But I found that they're just really, it was a lot more greasy. It seemed like it was overcooked with a lot of grease, and it just kind of sat in its own grease in the bin as people went through. I know these sausage links, like, they were dry. I ended up dipping them in maple syrup to give them a little bit more moisture. And it's just, overall the experience was just not great. And it's kind of sad because it's been a year and it seemed like it actually got worse. Like when we first went there, it was kind of more near when they kind of started opening. So I think they were open for probably a month or so. And then it seemed they were a little bit more excited. They still had to get things kind of revved up and get things going, and they were interested in trying to improve on things. But it seemed like since then, coming back now, it's almost as if they've kind of given up and they just don't want to make any more effort into trying to improve this place at all.
Yeah, I have that same feeling, Simon. The giving up portion, they're like, oh, let's try this different stuff. Let's see if we can implement this. Maybe they got like a new manager and they were really excited about their position, and then they found out, oh, we actually don't have the budget to actually try these new things. And then they tried some other things and it also didn't work, and so they were like, oh, let's just go back to what we were doing before. It was the most cost-effective way, and people came in just to feed themselves, but then there was no like real enjoyment to it.
Yeah, it's pretty sad state. You know, usually, at least with some of those really good buffets, even ones that are kind of that mid-tier, you'll see people and you'll either get where you'll kind of have a lot of people with happy faces because they're eating a lot of great food and they really enjoy it, or you'll have a mix where at least you'll have some people who are happy and some people who aren't so happy. In this case, you kind of, as I was kind of observing all the other diners around, not that there were too many, but at least it seemed as if they were seating everybody kind of in the same section, so at least in the area it was more full than other places. But just watching their faces, it seemed like everybody had that same kind of disappointed, like, why did I pay to have this? I kind of feel like I got cheated a bit. And so, it's not the memory I had the very first time I came here where it was packed. And of course, this was a long time ago, but definitely at that time, people were definitely happy to eat at this buffet, but nowadays it does not seem that's the case.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Simon. I think overall, it was kind of disappointing. I would not recommend this one.
And to wrap up our video, here are our notables. Unfortunately for this one, there are none.
If you've enjoyed the content you've seen, don't forget to support the channel and hit like and subscribe. And if you want to see additional pictures of food and our travels, go over to our Instagram page and follow us there.